Alex from DiamondArm. First off, read this disclaimer carefully. Let's look at the NASDAQ. We will look at three ETFs, the SQQQ, which is the bearish leveraged option, and then you have the TQQQ, which is the bullish one. You can see that the TQQQ is a massive 325% from the 52-week low. That's a massive gain. And of course we will look at the NASDAQ, the QQQ, 69%, and at all-time highs. First, let's look a bit at the seasonality. So this is QQQ, the NASDAQ versus the S&P 500, and it shows us that July and October historically are some of the strongest months here for the NASDAQ vis-a-vis the S&P 500. If we look purely at the NASDAQ, you can see that the mid to early autumnish part of the year is usually a period where we have corrections in the NASDAQ. We definitely have not had it so far, but that's a bit of a warning. Though October and November are usually strong. Okay, so the ETFs we will look at is the QQQ, the TQQQ, which is the one if you are bullish, and the SQQQ if you are very much bearish. So the TQQQ and SQQQ are the leveraged ones. In order to determine our bias, we need to look at the history of the NASDAQ, the big picture. So these are weekly data points, all the history we have. So let's now do some basic analysis, okay? So here you can see before the dot-com bubble, the NASDAQ, it usually has some pullbacks. But here you had the pullbacks, and then you had the massive rally, very consistent rally, but that was the major top. And then you have, a multi-year bear market. And even during the post-crash bull market, the NASDAQ was very far away from the all-time highs. And you can see that during this bull market, NASDAQ moved in cycles. It pulled back quite frequently to the 100 or even the 200-week moving average. Then you have the double bottom, and then you have the new bull market, which is the current bull market. And you can see that throughout this entire bull market, NASDAQ has frequent pullbacks to like the 50-week moving average or even the 100-week moving average. The 200-week moving average, that would signify a far more, more dramatic pullback. But you can see that there are these frequent pullbacks. 50 and the 100-week moving average. That's the classical thing. It even likes to pull back, as you can see, quite frequently to the purple 20-week moving average. That's the norm. This is the current behavior of the NASDAQ. You can see that we are very far away from these classical pullback levels, even though historically, as we have seen, NASDAQ likes to pull back to them. Which begs the question, what weighs the most? This anomaly or all the other history of the NASDAQ? Obviously, it makes most sense to weigh all of the other history as being far more meaningful. And even if we look at all the previous history, the closest analogy we have to this major super strong rally is this rally before the total crash, and this rally here before this crash, or potentially even this rally here before this correction. Basically, what I'm saying here is that at these levels here on the NASDAQ, there's a high probability of a correction. I would not feel comfortable entering a new bullish position here. If you look at some other metrics, let's jump to the daily data points and let's look at RSI. Let's load all the data we can have to really get to know that big picture. So here you can see the RSI. This is all the history we literally can get here with the NASDAQ. And you can see, if we go way back here, the NASDAQ doesn't like to be overbought or oversold. It likes to stay within the RSI zone. Throughout its entire history, that's what it likes to do. When it gets overbought, it quickly can trigger a pullback. When it gets oversold, there will be a bounce. Given that we've spent quite some extended time now moving around in the upper RSI level, and it's been quite some time until we revisited the lower part of the RSI. We have a historical anomaly, and then you gotta ask yourself the basic question: what is most reliable? Is this the trend that you should be focused exclusively on, or should you also look at all the other history of the NASDAQ? Logically, it makes sense to be more skeptical of this now, given how long it's been since we saw that correction. There is an 87% correlation with the S&P 500. That is pretty strong. If we look here at the daily data points, the accumulation distribution line, it is corroborating the recent rally. That's good, bullish. We do, however, have a bearish divergence on the RSI, and that's something we had here as well before the major pandemic crash. Okay, so basically if I were to sum up my take here on the NASDAQ, yes, quite clearly the bulls are in control. There's no doubt about that. We have only pulled back here to the 20-day moving average. We are very far away from these other moving averages, which is, of course, it's bullish. But at some point, a trend that is very overextended, it should make you think more like a contrarian. You know, when you see a stock is up a lot without a break, then you need to be a bit more skeptical of how much there's left in that move. So when you try to enter a bullish position, try to enter it after a pullback. If you want to enter a bearish position, you want to do it close to the exhaustion surge high. We don't have signs of exhaustion yet though from the bulls. They are strong, but it's very overextended. Let's now look a bit at the correlations with these leveraged products. So now we have the QQQ in the background. Then we look at the TQQQ, which is the bullish one. 94% positive correlation, meaning it does work, but there is some divergence. If we look at the daily data points, there's 91% positive correlation. It means that around 9% is divergence, but it has worked out, but there is also that divergence. When it comes to the SQQQ, we do have a problem because there's recently been a stock split, and investing.com, they are very lazy when it comes to recalculating the leveraged ETFs. Hence, we do not really get any useful data here, unfortunately. Okay, yeah. Okay, so basically, we have the NASDAQ here. Here you can see some trend lines as well from Finviz. You have this trend line and this channel. And you can see that we are touching the resistance on this trend line. Yeah. And if you look here at the performance, it's really high, so that's of course bullish. There are options available on the NASDAQ, and also it is shortable, and it is one of the most liquid products out there. Okay. Whatever you do, of course, with the NASDAQ, don't fight the trend. We want to see some signs of weakness before we turn bearish. If you do put on a bearish position, trying to sort of nail the top, then you at least want to have a very tight stop level. Because it has been possible to short the NASDAQ and make money if you had a super tight stop level, during these very small pullbacks. But there's not been, obviously this has been very favorable for the bulls, and much more challenging for the bears. But this is an anomaly, that's the thing. Hence, all those bears who did get beaten up during at least the later push of this rally, sure, we could make fun of those bears, but then again, what the bears were doing made perfect sense given all the history of the NASDAQ. And you ask yourself the question, do you want to rely on the vast majority of the history of a product, or potentially an anomaly? Okay. So may the trend be with you.